for the number of labels guaranteeing the quality and origin of the wine. 76 controlled and guaranteed designation of origin. And 332 controlled designation of origin.
Well, good morning, welcome. Today is the first of 6 of masterclass about Italian wines organized by Coldiretti here in Milano Wine Week. Today we are going to have a short trip around Italy from the north to south, discovering the most important grapes of this special country. To start this event, we present a short video just to understand what means for us wine. So I'd like the time to see the video. Can we start the video? Yes, can we? Okay, thank you.
The native vines, with our millenary history. Italian wine is culture, art, tradition, landscapes, cooperation, biodiversity. Italy is the first country in the world for wine production. The average production is 36 million hectoliters per year. There are 650,000 hectares of vineyards, of which about 110,000 hectares are in organic cultivation. 11 billion in production turnover, of which 6.3 from exports. 20 million hectoliters of wines exported to 130 countries, 15 billion total turnover. In the world, 1 bottle out of 5 of exported wine is made in Italy. Wine is the main ambassador of Made in Italy agri-food in the world. In Italy, there are 200,000 companies operating in the sector, of which 3,000 wine producers and over 1 billion employees. Italy ranks first in the world for the number of labels guaranteeing the quality and origin of the wine. 76 controlled and guaranteed designation of origin and 332 controlled designation of origin have been recognized. 118 typical geographical indication and 608 different registered wine grape varieties, of which over 550 are native. The history of Italian wine is the history of an indissoluble bond. The territory and the people who with their work take care of it. The history of Italian wine is a history of excellence.
Well, this video I think is just to explain to you that wine is a part of our DNA. We produce wine since when the Greek arrived in the south of Italy and built the first colonies. It's something that is a part of our culture, our lifestyle, our way to enjoy the time together. And it's a pleasure to introduce indigenous grape today because we have 11 different types of indigenous grape to try. And we can start from the first wine, if you want. If you can give me my slide. Can I have the control remote? Grazie. Well, the first wine that we have today comes from the south of Italy. We are in Basilicata. It's a small region in the south, a very special region with different kind of grapes. And what we are going to try today, it's a particular wine because it's a sparkling wine. It's not the real tradition of Basilicata to produce sparkling wine, but we have two young producers today that can explain us why they choose this special kind of production. We are in the south of Basilicata, Alta Val d'Agri. It's a flat area about 60 meters above the sea level, and climate here is really cold. It's like an alpine kind of climate. This is the reason why we can find here not the typical grape of the south of Italy, but you can find the grapes of the north of Italy because of this climate so particular. The soil is really mixed here, so you can work with the grape in different kind of soil, giving different direction to the wine. And the Azienda Agricola Biologica Pisani, here we have one of the represented. Is here, but the light kind of shine, so I can talk for no problem. And this winery was born in the early 60s, so it's kind of ancient winery. In the pics we can perfectly see how the climate changed during the year. During the winter the wineries is covered by snow, and during the summer it's a really green area. We have 20 hectares of vineyards, and we can find, as I told you, the typical grape of the north of Italy, the same grape that we can find, for example, in Trentino, in Veneto, in Alto Adige, because this particular climate that we can find in this area. And the wine that we are going to try today is from a north typical grape, that it's Cortese. Cortese actually is a grape that comes from Piedmont, the southeast of Piedmont. It's a particular grape. The name of this grape, Cortese, the meaning is kind. It's a kind grape because he's a great producer, produce a lot of bunches. And imagine in the Middle Age, this grape was a kind of assurance at the end of the year. And this grape needs a long and slow maturation, so a cold climate is just perfect because it can give us more smells and more flavors, but we have to manage really with careful this kind of grape because it's produce a lot. So to have a good wine we have to make like a selection of the best bunches on the plant. The wine that we are going to test today, as I told you, is a sparkling wine. So we have a Charmat method. The wine name is Azzurra, and we are going to try it in our glass. Where's my glass? I don't have a glass. Can I have the wine too, please? Thank you. No, me lo faccio riportare, non c'è problema. It's a wine that we have to drink in the young age, of course, 2 years, no more, in optimal condition of longevity, and aging just in still, of course, to fix these fresh perfumes of Cortese grape. The base of the wine is Cortese, but they can add some indigenous variety, not exactly declaring which ones. So we can go to the glass now, and I think you have the glass with you, and you can find a pale yellow wine. The color is really lightful, is really brilliant, the bubbles are small and continuous in the glass. On the nose, You can feel it's an easy wine that arrived directly to our nose with those flowers hints, some peach, some apricot, some dried herbs like rosemary. The nose, it's not an exploding nose, it's kind of delicate, but it's really elegant. Have a sip of this wine. Fresh, light, drinkable, most of all. It's a drinkable wine. You can have a glass your mouth is not tired about it. The bubbles are small and it's a pleasure to have this massage like in the mouth. In the end you can find the typical almond savor, and it's something that you can always find when you drink this kind of grape. How can you pair it? Imagine it. I imagine to drink this wine during an aperitif, for example, with some appetizer, with a light dish, maybe based on eggs. It's perfect to clean the fat part of the eggs, maybe just a frittata, you know, and nothing too heavy or nothing too strong to exalt the delicatesse of this special wine, of this particular wine. Thank you for bringing your wine here. What's your name? Anna. Anna is here to represent her wine. Well, come on and go on to the second wine that we have today. We are in Veneto, and this is one of the most important area in Italy about sparkling wine, because here we produce one of our most famous wine, Prosecco. In fact, we are exactly in the area of Prosecco, and this is the DOCG wine, the Asolo Prosecco Superiore. As you can see, we are in the heart of the Prosecco territory. It's the ancient part of the production. Today the DOC is very big, but this is the proper heart of this wine. Asolo Prosecco Superiore Brut, the winery is Amadio. And this is, we are on Colli Asolani. When you hear the word Colli, you have to think about the hills, because the meaning is hills. Northeast of Veneto, gentle hills with this special soil, marly clayey and marly sandy too. So it's a perfect mix for the grape of this area, that is Glera. Glera, ancient known as Prosecco, and I'm going to explain why this grape changed its name. The winery that we met today, it's Amadio, and an ancient, really ancient winery, dated back to 1850. So it's a family-run business. Today they have the third generation leading the winery. The two children, 20 hectares owned, but just 12 dedicated to the vineyards. In the rest, they produce olive oil, and they have woods and green spaces around. The cellar is carved into the rock, so it's under the level of the ground. This is perfect because it can have temperature, the same temperature during the year. So you can steal a bottle there, forget the bottle there, and the bottle will have no problems about the temperature and the humidity too. And the grape that we are going to test, it's Glera grape. Glera, it's a kind of new old name for this grape, because until 2009 we called this grape Prosecco. What is the problem about it? Everywhere in the world you can cultivate Prosecco grape and call your name Prosecco. So when the 2009 the Prosecco area promoted to full DOCG status, the most important of our pyramid, the producers think about a way to protect this name, the name of Prosecco. How can they do it? They change the name of the Prosecco grape in the ancient name of this grape, Glera. So now you can call the wine Prosecco because inside the DOC area there is a small town called Prosecco, but the name of the grape is Glera. So you can cultivate Glera all over the world, all around the world, but you can't call your wine Prosecco, you have to call it Glera, of course. And it's a highly produced grape with big bunches, ripens in the late season, so you have to be patient. The late season, ripeness in the late season could be a problem for the producer because, you know, we are in Veneto, in northeast of Italy. In this period, the climate starts to change. The rain and the winter is more close, so you can have some problems in the vineyard. You have to be very careful inside the vineyard. And we don't know exactly where this grape comes from. We know something about the name. Maybe this name is connected to this small city called Prosecco that is not in Veneto, is in Friuli, near the border between Veneto and Friuli. And it's a grape that you can find not just in Veneto and in Friuli, but you have some of this grape in Italian-Slovenia border, so they use it to produce sparkling wine and still wine. So we are going to test Prosecco. This is the DOCG, so this wine comes from the ancient part of this denomination. Eccolo qui. The Glera grape is a semi-aromatic grape, so we have to expect a lot of perfumes. Looking at this wine, I can see a lot of bubbles, a lot of small bubbles and continuous bubbles in the glass. It's a pale yellow with some hint of green. Go on the nose. Here you can perfectly find the soul of Glera, this explosion of perfumes, this semi-aromatic idea come outside the glass easily. The perfumes reach your nose really powerful, and you can find this peach that is typical of this kind of grape. You can find some white roses, some flowers, yellow flowers, and hint of herbs. It's an easy but deep nose. Really interesting. Have a sip of this one. The mouth have a perfect connection with the nose. We can find the same sensation that we find in the nose. It's an explosion inside your mouth, a lot of freshness, and have this hint of savory, and this is really connected to this kind of soil, because all the area, the ancient area of Prosecco, the DOCG Prosecco, Asolo and Conegliano Valdobbiadene, it's origin with marine soil. So it could happen that inside the vineyards you can find some clams, and I think that you can find this savory part in wine. And after the sip is really long. It's like a remembering inside the mouth of what you feel with your nose, with this explosion, the fruity part, the peachy part, the flower part, and have a long hand. Here you can imagine how to use this wine. Yes, of course, it's perfect for an aperitif, but I think you can use it, for example, with seafood appetizer, or why not? I think you can use it with some kind of risotto, risotto, maybe an easy one. One of the typical plates, a typical kind of risotto of this area is made with vegetables, so it's easy, it's light, it's fresh, but it's made with butter, so a lot of fat. And with this bubble you can perfectly clean this part in the mouth. So you can use it with main courses too, not too heavy main courses. Vegetables are perfect with a wine like this. Hope you enjoy these two first sparkling wine. It's just to start, just to make us more comfortable and see what happens with the next wine. We move now and we go to Colli di Rimini. We are in Romagna, a beautiful region in the north of Italy. We are really near the sea. Colli di Rimini, it's a sunny hills looking to the sea, and the sea breeze go inside the vineyards, and there are a lot of sunny days during the year, no problems with the rain. And the winters are not too cold, the summer are not too warm. Limestone and clay are the most important soil, but in some parts we have some insert of tuff. So these special rocks gives minerality on the nose to this wine. And winery that we are going to test today is Podere dell'Angelo. Here too, it's something that you will hear all over the day. It's a family-run business, like always happen in Italy, and probably we are at the second or the third generation of winemaker. Here, the company was founded in 1923, so it's kind of ancient, not ancient like other ones, but it's an old one. And the project started with the grandfather, Angelo, and then his children, and then the children of his children, and today we have the third generation of winemaker inside this winery. In 2010 they renovate completely the main building. They reconstruct the winery with new technologies to manage better the vineyard and to manage better the cellar too. And the grape that we are going to test today is Rebola. Rebola, it's another name for a special grape that is Pignoletto. Rebola is most known as Pignoletto grape. Pignoletto is one of the indigenous grape of the area of Romagna. You can find it in Emilia too, but it's something that's more typical in Romagna. And this special grape has been cultivated here for centuries. It's really ancient in this part of Italy. And the fact is that you can find this grape just in this part of Italy. It don't want to move from here. It's home, and it prefers this kind of soil, this kind of climate, and it's always considered like a rustic variety. And but it's very ductile. You can produce really different wines with this grape, because it's perfect for sparkling wine because they have a high acidity. It's perfect for easy white wine, drinkable and not too aged. It's good to produce aged wine in oak, for example, and it's perfect for sweet wines too. So with one grape you can have an entire dinner, starting from the appetizer to the dessert, for example. And the wine that we are going to test today, it's a 100% Rebola, and it's a classic white wine about production, just aging in still, and we can still it for 3-4 years, of course in optimal condition. Have a look at this wine. The color, it's a pale yellow, but it has some golden hint that make us think about the sun of this area. On the nose, This is the perfect nose of Pignoletto, of Rebula. You can find exactly what you expect of this kind, from this kind of grape. It's really interesting because this is a wine made near the sea, near the beach actually, and I can find perfectly the smell of the sea breeze inside the glass. It's a summer wine that makes me think about summer. There is this salty part that invites to sip it. A fruity part, but the fruit is not too ripe. It's like we can almost smell the freshness and the acidity that we can expect to the sip. Just have a sip. There is a perfect balance inside the mouth because the wine has this glyceric part that made it smooth and rounded, but the freshness in the first time, and most of all the savory part at the end of the sip gives this perfect balance that I want to do another sip, and another sip, and another sip, and finish the glass in 1 minute probably. But just because we have this minerality, we have this sea part inside the wine. The end is pretty long, it's tasty, and it brings us this idea of sea wine, of beach wine, of summer wine. And the name of this wine is Giulietta. And on the label, if you see the label of this wine, you can perfectly see how easy and fresh the marketing is about this wine. How do you pair a wine like this? This is perfect for different occasions, I think. It's not exactly an aperitif wine. You need to sit on the table and eat something when you drink this wine. For example, a risotto fish could be great with a wine like this, or pasta with clams, that it's a typical summer plate. Or why not a baked fish, not too heavy, not too strong, an easy baked fish, but could be a really good pairing with sea test of this wine. We just have the first 3 wines, and we discovered 3 different territories, 3 really different grapes, 3 ways to work in the vineyard and in the cellar. And going on, you can see that we have really more to discover, because the next wine brings us in Piedmont, one of the most important regions in Italy when we talk about wine. And when we talk about Piedmont wine, immediately our mind goes to the most important wine of this region, like Barolo, like Barbaresco. But remember that this region is really most various. They produce different kind of wine in different areas. Barolo and Barbaresco are really important, of course, but there is a world to discover in this special region. And we are really near to Langhe, the most important area of wine in Piemonte, but not exactly in Langhe. We have to cross the Tanaro River that divides the Roero territory where this wine is produced, to discover another area. In 2014, Roero was declared UNESCO World Heritage because it's incredibly beautiful, and there are ancient traditions about wine. Southern Piedmont, the red part that you see is Langhe, the small river, and the north part is Roero. And the fact is that are very different territory. Langhe have more sandy soil. Here you can find gravel and fluvial soil, more clay and marine origin. So it's really special, this kind of soil. And we are talking about Azienda Agricola Giacomo Vico. Giacomo Vico winery is really, really ancient. It's dated on 1018 years. The historic winery, it's built under the level of the ground. The ancient cellar is really beautiful. It's inside the rocks, and now there is another building outside where you can have a tasting or visit the winery, of course. And they renovate all the cellar in 2010, a lot of special here. And this winery in 2010 chose to be more environmentally friendly because they installed 300 square meters of solar panels. So now they are almost using just the energy they produce. There's no waste of energy. And grape that we are going to test today, it's Arneis. Probably Arneis, it's a generic variation of Nebbiolo. It's the white Nebbiolo. We are going to test Nebbiolo too. And it's a particular grape because we can find this grape just in the Roero area, and it's typical of this part of Piedmont. Imagine that at one point this grape was almost disappear because it kind of complicated to manage this grape in the vineyard. So Cortese, the grape that we drank in the second wine, that is really easy to cultivate, take place, and Arneis almost discovered. Then a bunch of producers decide to take back this grape to his life and renovate the vineyard with new planting, new vines, new kinds of pruning, modern techniques, discovering that this grape can give some important results. We can talk about an important white wine of our country. Arneis, it's a grape that is perfect to drink in the year, easy and drinkable, but you can perfectly age it in oak and stir it and forget it. We can have an Arneis with 10 years, for example, and find an alive wine, find a fresh wine, find a drinkable wine. One of the typical pairing that in Piedmont made with the old Arneis, it's with truffle, for example. And in the vines, you can find around the vineyard of Nebbiolo, usually they put some plants of Arneis, because Arneis have a strong perfumes that catch the attention of the birds that eats the berry of the Arneis and leaves the Nebbiolo free from birds or from bees, for example. We can, as I told you, we can have fresh wines or aged wines with this kind of grape. And the wine that we are going to test is a Roero Arneis, 100%, of course, maceration on the skin for 12-18 hours, so a short maceration on the skin, then alcoholic fermentation just in still, and aged about 1 year in big barrels. So we are going to test a kind of riserva. What does it mean? Riserva, it's wine aged for a long time, usually in oak, big or small barrels. And you can drink this year in 5, 6, 7 years, no problem with it. So go to test it. And of course, in the glass, we can find another color. This is more gold. This is more hot, this color. And of course, the oak gives this shade on the glass. Go on the nose. It's interesting because here we can find both the grape and the cellar. What I mean, you can find the perfume of the variety, this variety of grape, like a a fruity part, a mineral part like a hint of earth, of dry earth, but we can smell this little part of oak. So we have some vanilla, we have some spices, we have like a burnt part in the glass, a little boisé. But it's a deep nose. You can round it, put the nose inside, and you can find new perfumes coming outside the glass. Have a sip. It's a full-bodied wine that empty your mouth. It's smooth, but there is a good balance with the freshness, and I'm really appreciating the end of this wine. It's a deep, long, interesting end where comes back all the flavors that we find on the nose, this spicy part, this minerality, this fruity part, and it's really long. We can wait and wait and wait, and the wine is here. For this reason, this white wine needs an important plate. You can't just pair it with some fish, I don't know, but we have to use something more intense, like mushrooms, why not? Or, for example, white meats, for example, with chicken or with pork, why not? With a belly pork, it could be a great experience. It's a wine that's call the table. We have to sit, eat something important to open a bottle like this. It's not just an easy and drinkable white wine. It's something more than this. We move in another area and we go in Sardinia. The first wine that we are testing from Sardinia, it's come from Accademia Olearia. We are in the northwest of Sardinia, the area of Alghero, and we are kind of in front of the sea. This is we call this place the Little Barcelona because the ancient Aragonese domination lives here some Spanish words in the idioma. Location, we are in Alghero, flatlands in front, just in front of the sea, and the soil are mixed, but the most important part is the calcareous soil that gives a special minerality to the wine from this area. And the winery, we call it winery, but it's not exactly a winery, because Accademia Olearia just produces one wine, the Vermentino that we are testing today, because their core business it's olive oil. They have a lot of olive trees. They produce different oil from different olives, different kind of olives, and they choose to represent the most important grape of this region. They choose the Vermentino grape, and Vermentino, it goes by various names. If you go in Liguria, they call it Pigato, that it's another kind of Vermentino. If you go in Piedmont, you call it Favorita, it's pretty the same. If you go in Provence, you call it, oh, ciao. You can see it now. If you go in Provence, you can call it Vol, for example. But it's a kind of grape that has a direct connection with the Tyrrhenian Sea. All the places where Vermentino grows see the Tyrrhenian Sea. It's a grape that have to breathe this sea breathing. And across the Tyrrhenian Sea in Sardinia, Romagna. Vermentino was cultivated from long time. It's one of the ancient grape of this area, and it's the most important grape of the region. For this reason, there is an entire denomination dedicated to this wine, Vermentino di Sardegna, Vermentino from Sardinia. It's a DOC dedicated to just to this grape. And the wine that we are going to test is a 100% Vermentino, of course, classic white vinification, and aged just in still for 6 months. A wine that we have to drink in 2-3 years, no more than this. I'm going to test it. Here too we can find a yellow with this gold reflected in the glass. The nose talk about this region. Here you can really find the Mediterranean herbs. The Mediterranean explode in the glass, not just for the sea, but for example for the herbs that are most important in this region. The myrtle, rosemary, and then it has this rocky part. It's like to smell a rocks near the sea. It's a kind of Sardinian nose, a typical Sardinian nose. Have a sip. In the mouth, of course, the salty part explode. This savory part at the end mixed with the fruity part and the herbs part. A good freshness, but all the sip, it's about the salty part of this area. We are going to test another wine from Sardinia, so we can just try to understand the difference between a territory just near the sea and a territory more inside the island. Here on the end, the savory part is the star of the sip, and about the pairing of this wine, I think that could be perfect, for example, with an octopus, maybe a grilled octopus with some fresh cheeses like ricotta, or maybe why not with just an easy pasta al pesto, pasta with some herbs. Nothing too heavy, nothing too strong, nothing too intense, but a main course, a first course with vegetables could be a good idea with a wine like this. Going on, we come back in Emilia-Romagna, and we are in a different territory. Albana di Romagna is the wine that we are going to test. The name of this wine is Vigna Rocca, and we have here Tremonti to tell us something about the territory and of course the winery. As you prefer. English. So we laugh. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Davide Noracchia, and with my family I run the Tremonti winery. We have a very small winery of around 50 hectares shared in 2 different estates, one in Imola, in the east above Imola, and one in Forlì. We produce the typical grape of Romagna, and among whites, by sure, the Albana is the number one. Albana is really characteristic, almost impossible to find elsewhere than in our region. And maybe you know that it has been the first white to get the DOCG in 1987, after the 5 great reds, Barolo, Barbaresco, Chianti, Vino Nobile, and Brunello. The first white has been the Albana, not because it was so good, of course, but because it's really representative of a very small production area. Today we are going to taste our Albana Vigna Rocca. It is our basic Albana, 100% Albana grape that came from the Forlì estate. This wine did a small maturation of the skins. After our first experience of around 10 years ago of a skin maturated wine in Georgian amphora, around 6 years ago we brought this experience also in our basic Albana, making it skin fermentation for around 10 days. For us, it helps very much to give to this wine all the potential of the grapes, because this grape take a lot from his skin. Very often we say that it's a red wine in a white dress, because the characteristics, the body, the strongness, also the tannins, are almost the same of a red. It's not easy to extract only the right things from the skin of the Albana. It is also a very delicate grape, very difficult to work with, but when everything runs well, we are very happy of this wine. It's also very easy for the matching with the food, because it's good with the typical matching for a white, Italian pasta, the fish, eggs, rice. But I suggest you to try also with some kind of meats, turkey, chicken, pork, calf, not the red meat, of course, but it's a good wine that can accompany all the meal without to change the bottle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the reason why the color is so particular is for the maceration on the skin, I think.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have a special color in the glass. It's not exactly a white wine, it's not exactly a rosy wine, but had this beautiful light pink in the color. A question, which color is the skin of the Albana?
I have few minutes to explain, but I would like also to explain that you can understand completely this wine only after I've seen a grape of it, because the color is dark yellow, turning to gold, and is very long grape, almost 35 centimeters long. Heavy. We have to work hard in the vineyards to force the plant to don't produce too many grapes, too many berries, and the taste of the grape is incredible because it's really sweet.
Thank you. And on the nose, I think that you can find like a bunch of flowers, different flowers from white to yellow to pink flowers. This a kind of watermelon sensation on the nose. And I think we can add like a malt sensation, a grain sensation, really particular in this glass. Have a sip. It's interesting, this sip, because it's a perfect balance between this full body of this grape and of this skin maceration, but has an incredibly fresh part. It's really freshness, and the acidity is really high, and it's funny to find this hint of tannins. It's just an hint, just a little bit, that dry a little the mouth, but let the mouth perfectly clean. And in the end, this flower sensation explodes after the sip. And it's a particular kind of Albana, and I think that the soul of this grape arrived directly in the glass. Thank you very much. And going on, we are going to visit another region. We come back in Sardinia with another particular project. Gociano is the wine that we are going to test, and Arvisionado, it's the winery. We are in the center of Sardinia, no beaches, no sea, another kind of territory, a kind of mountain territory. The area is covered with gently breeze from the sea. It's not warm during the summer, it's not too cold during the winter, so there is a perfect climate for the cultivation of the vine. And the Arvisionado project, we have here one of the... Funziona il tuo microfono? Okay. That can introduce the project to us. If you prefer to talk in Italy.
Yes, this project starts in 2006. This winery has the idea to sell this wine that it was close to the extinction for centuries. And now we can check and taste this wine after years of very strong improving work on it. You can talk to Mr. Palavati, who is the enologist of the company.
Thank you. Va bene.
Perdonatemi se parlo in italiano, però faccio prima. Mi aiuta la signora. È un vitigno, come ha detto già il collega, sconosciuto anche in Sardegna. Sono presenti solo circa 20 ettari vitati di questo vitigno.
Okay, just slow please. Okay. There is just 20 hectares of this kind of grape in all Sardinia. It means all over the world we have just 20 hectares of this grape. It's an ancient grape that almost disappeared from the region, and this project retake to live a new life for this grape.
Siamo stati i primi a vinificarlo a livello tecnico in Sardegna e anche nel mondo. Alla fine siamo i più grandi produttori. È un vitigno molto particolare perché ha un grappolo molto lungo, molto spargolo, dunque ha una grande presenza di raspo, dunque la parte verde, e degli acini molto piccoli.
Okay, it's a special grape because it have a big, really big bunch, a long bunch with not too much berries on it, and what else? The berry are really small.
È una parte molto tannica data dalla concentrazione di bucce e dei vinaccioli.
And there's a strong concentration of polyphenols on the skin, so there is a tannic, like a tannic sensation to manage in the cellar.
Questa caratteristica ha degli svantaggi perché la resa in vigna è veramente bassa, andiamo a meno di 50 quintali a ettaro, ma soprattutto andiamo a un rapporto uva mosto sporco sotto il 50%.
Okay, the yields in the vineyard is really low, no more than 50 quintali, mi hai detto, quintals per hectares, and the most too that we obtain, it's not so much, just 50% of most from the wine, so we have a low yields to manage.
Questo ci porta a produrre circa 3.000 bottiglie a ettaro, dunque potete immaginare i costi. La sua caratteristica...
Just 3,000 bottles for hectares.
Questa sua concentrazione polifenolica ci permette di dare grande vita al vino. Non avevamo dei riscontri, dei confronti sul mercato, dunque sono stati i primi anni di sperimentazione. Questo ci ha portato a creare questa versione riserva, che sono 1.300 bottiglie.
Okay, this special skin of this grape, full of polyphenols with this tannin part, brings the winery to work in a special way. So in this case particular, what we have in the glass, it's a white wine produced in oak for 18 months, right?
Il 50% di questo vino viene fermentato in legno, l'altro 50% fa solo la fermentazione in acciaio, e dopo andiamo a farla affinare per circa 18 mesi in legno di rovere.
As you can see, 50% of fermentation in 50% of fermentation in oak, and then aged just in oak. And it's a wine that can have a long life, like 7-8 years of life, and I think that you can use it with important plat, not just the typical white wine plats. Am I right?
Abbiamo cercato di trovare il giusto equilibrio per dare la struttura del legno senza coprire le caratteristiche del vitigno.
Okay, they try to find the perfect balance between the oak and the grape, using the oak not covering this particular grape.
Infatti, se sentite a livello olfattivo si sente molto la macchia mediterranea, leggera sensazione di fiori, una delle caratteristiche è la parte sulfurea. Questo è dato.
On the nose you can perfectly find the Mediterranean soul of this wine, and this floral part. And I want to add something not just sulfurous, but something more about the oak. You can find like a light spacey in this wine, like white peppers, some ginger, something like this.
Le note sulfuree sono date dalla vicinanza delle terme sulfuree che sono a circa 200 metri di distanza dalla vigna.
These sulfurous notes come from the ground, the kind of soil that they have in this area.
A livello gustativo andate a sentire una bella struttura, una bella finezza che il legno ha affinato i tannini, è un vino secco, non ha nessun grammo di zucchero residuo, a parte quelli infermentiscibili.
The sip, it's a full body sip. You can find the structure gives by the oak, but a good balance with the acidity and with the salty part.
L'altra caratteristica che noterete è che per essere un 2018 ha ancora una grande parte tannica che gli darà molta vita e una bella freschezza.
It's a 2018, so you can find a tannic part present in the sip, and what else? La parte tannica è?
È la grande freschezza.
And the great freshness, the acidity that we have in this glass.
Non essendo un vitigno aromatico assolutamente come uva, siamo riusciti comunque nell'intento, abbiamo notato nell'affinamento di 2 o 3 anni esprime al massimo le sue qualità. Dunque,
It's not an aromatic grape, so we can use it with long aged, like 2-3 years.
Sentite anche a livello gustativo c'è ancora un pochino più di frutta rispetto alla parte floreale.
The sip is really fruity, more than floral.
E questo tipo di vinificazione ci ha permesso di essere a parte unici con questo vitigno anche come caratteristiche tecniche, non credo che ci siano dei riscontri.
And this kind of grape with this vinification, it's something unique. I have to admit, it's the first time that I try this grape. I don't know about the others here in the room, if you have already known this grape or if you already tested. So thank you very much for this opportunity to discover the new Italian indigenous grape. It's not an everyday adventure that we can have. Thank you very much. Going on, we come back in Piedmont, the same winery that we test for Arneis that produce also red wines. In this case we are going to try their Nebbiolo, and this Nebbiolo comes from a special cru. This cru is called Valmaggiore. It's a small vineyard located in the Roero area, and the Giacomo Vico winery have some space in this cru, and they produce this their most important wine, that is Nebbiolo d'Alba Valmaggiore. We already talked about this area, and Nebbiolo is a really special grape, a grape that makes us famous in the world with important wines like Barolo and Barbaresco. But here in Roero it gives different and special results, I think. The name Nebbiolo comes from the name nebbia. Nebbia, it's the fog. Why? Because it's a late ripeness grape. So the ripeness of this grape arriving about in this period of the years. And this is the period where the fog covered the hills in the area of Langhe and Roero. And it's really complicated to cultivate this grape because it's a kind of grape that have a lot of problems. They have a small bunch and the berry are really close to one another, so the mold could be a problem. So it's a grape that needs a windy and fresh area to grow up. 300 meters, 45 meters, no more, because over this it's too cold, for example. Good ventilation, it's like a kind of prince, the Nebbiolo. I don't want to stay here, I have my needs, and all the producers that work with this grape have some difficulties. So it's always, you have to be brave to work with Nebbiolo, because every day something can go in a wrong way. But at the end, the results could be really incredible. And the traditional method to produce this grape, it with long maceration to obtain all the polyphenols that the skin has, and it's a perfect grape to be aged in barrels. The tradition wants the big barrels. The new way to produce Nebbiolo is with barrique, with small barrels. A lot of producers mix the two kind of oak, big barrels and barrique, to have more balance in wine, to not cover too much with the oak. And we are going to try 100% Nebbiolo, alcoholic fermentation just in still, controlled temperature, long maceration as the tradition wants, and it's aged 24 months in Slavonia oak barrels, big barrels like the tradition asks. 2 years in bottle before leave the cellar. And it's a wine that you can put in your cellar and forget it for 10, 12 years, why not? And this is what you have in the glass. It's the typical color of Nebbiolo. It's not compact wine. It's almost transparent, but it's exactly what I expect from this kind of grape. This ruby red with this hint of garnet and this transparency is really elegant, the color of Nebbiolo. On the nose, the first things that reach the nose, it's the balsamic sensation, a kind of eucalyptus sensation. Then the red small berries, the mulberry, some strawberry, the wild strawberry. This floral part, really elegant, the violet and the wild roses. And then something really typical of this, of the Roero territory, there is this wood sensation, like a wet earth, this mushroom sensation. Have a sip. And in the mouth you can perfectly understand what Nebbiolo means. Nebbiolo, it's a perfect mix of tannins that dry our mouth and acidity that give back our saliva. So it's a balance between these two words. And the end is long, it's deep. Imagine it on a table. You have to pair it with something with a lot of succulents, with a fat, for example, for a fat plate, a stuffed turkey could be, a meat pie, why not, or it could perfect with meat main course in general, with a big stick, a succulent stick with these tannins that dry our mouth from the succulence of the meat. I think that this is a perfect example of the potential of Nebbiolo in the Roero area. Remember that Nebbiolo is not just a grape from Langhe, but Roero it's a great territory for this kind of grape. Move on to the Friuli Venezia Giulia Refosco dal Peduncolo Rosso, special kind of grape of Valpanera winery. Here we have Fabiola from the winery. Fabiola, you wanna...
So the winery finds in Friuli, in the northeast of Italy, opposite to Piedmont. Our body soil is our treasure, because in your glass you can find what the clay, yellow and gray, can give to your smell. So Refosco can be an ancient native grape of this area, because till to the Roman times, in the area of Aquileia, where the winery finds the place, the Romans used to drink this Refosco in the person of the queen, the emperor. And after ancient times, also the Austrian emperor used to drink this Refosco. The character of Refosco is the freshness in this case, because it's a very particular grape with many tannins, but also a freshness, remembering the violet smelling. So in your glass you can find this particular delicate taste. Have a sip.
Okay, thank you very much, Fabiola. This wine have a different color from the Nebbiolo, for example. It's more compact, it's more ruby, it have this light violet flesh in the glass. And as Fabiola said, the nose is fresh and it's a crunchy nose, kind of crunchy nose. The fruit is not too ripe and there is this violet perfectly clear in the glass. Have a sip.
You have the sensation to eat the grape.
And it's crunchy to the mouth too. There is a lot of freshness in the glass. The tannins are just low. It's not the protagonist, not the start of the sip, but the freshness is, and this fruity part really interesting. The end have these herbal memories, and the violet come back in the end. It's very pleasure to chew. You can almost chew this wine. These red berries, the strawberry. So, want to add something about the sip?
Yes,
Viola?
it's very pleasant to drink and very suitable for food pairing.
How do you pair usually?
With the meat, with the fromage, that in Friuli we are very famous for the Montasio. With cevapcici is Slovenian food, but it's good, very good, because this little part of tannins cleans your mouth.
I can perfectly imagine it with sausages, for example. Maybe cook it with this wine too. Sausages cooked in wine and then drink this wine, because with a fat plate you can perfectly use the fresh part of this wine. Delicate but crunchy, and it's a funky wine. Really.
Yes, and during the summer on the seaside in Lignano coast, people drinks it at low temperature. So this wine is a surprise, because you have not only one temperature of service as you are drinking now.
See, the advantages is these low tannins that allow you to go down with the temperature. Like 14 degrees could be perfect for a wine like this.
12 also.
Perfect. Thank you, Fabiola.
You're welcome.
And we move to Veneto, and we are going to try one of the most important wines that we have in Italy, that is Amarone della Valpolicella. That, which one is? So I don't know where my glasses are. I lost the control of my glasses. No problem about it. Yes, it's this one. I can recognize it. And for this winery, the Villa San Carlo winery, today we have
Cristina.
Cristina. You can talk in Italy if you prefer. Se vuoi parlare italiano, se preferisci.
Also in English.
Okay,
Just a small
perfect.
introduction. I'm Cristina Pavesi, and I'm in charge of export operation for the family-run winery Villa San Carlo. We are in Veneto region, as Sana said, exactly in the eastern part of the Valpolicella wine district, the oriental side. The estate, the Villa San Carlo estate, bought by my parents in 1958, is an oasis of unspoiled greenery, 70 hectares in total, 20 vineyards, 10 olive groves, and then woodland. And this makes a special biodiversity for the area. The estate is stretching over a hill, and this different altitude of the vineyards, starting from 120 meters on sea level till 350, creates a special microclimate, and also the exposure. South-west exposure, perfect for the maturation of grapes. And the hill is enriched by old ancient stone terrace that guarantee a good drainage of the soil. A soil that is mainly calcareous subsoil, and this gives to the vines and grapes structure and elegance and minerality. The native grapes of the Valpolicella blend, Corvina, Corvinone, and Rondinella, find in this area a perfect environment, and what we are, our mission, what we're looking for, is to produce a wine that is a real expression of our terroir, and can talk about the characteristic of these grapes. Today we are going to taste the Amarone 2016. Amarone is a unique wine, is a wine made from dried grapes only, and more than 24 months in aging in oak. We use French oak, medium toasted barrel, tonneau and big barrel, and it's a wine of richness, complexity, elegance, lasts over time.
Thank you very much. It's really important to me, I think, talk about the Corvina, because when we talk about the most important wines in Italy, everyone knows the grapes. Nebbiolo is Barolo and Sangiovese is Brunello, but when we say Amarone della Valpolicella, no one knows the grape of this wine. Corvina is the most important grape of the blend that gives the cherry savor, this cherry nose, and it's accompanied by the Corvinone, the Rondinella, and others. So please remember these grapes, because a lot of people don't know nothing about it, but they are one of the most important grapes that we have in Italy. On the nose, you can perfectly find the mix of this grape. There is this strong cherry part of Corvina. Corvinone brings more the floral part, and Rondinella add this vegetable part on the nose. So it's a complex nose because it comes from different grapes, and of course this particular vinification with dried grapes brings this really intense nose, wet heart too, and like it's a kind of there is the pleasure of the marmalade in in this nose. It's very deep, the licorice, the leather, and the rose, the red roses, the spices, the black pepper, the cinnamon. It's a very complex nose. Have a sip of this. Licorice. And everything come back in the mouth. It's not just a full-bodied wine. It's more than full-bodied. It's kind of a rounded wine, but we can have an entire glass of this wine cause the freshness that Corvina takes in the glass. The acidity of this grape guarantee the pleasure of every sip. About the alcohol, we have an important alcohol in the glass, about 16, am I right? 15 degrees, but you can perceive it, but not so much. The alcohol is perfectly integrated in the sip, and in the end comes back this licorice that clean perfectly the palate, and this cherry that give us the idea to drink another sip. It's a pleasure to drink a wine like this. Of course, it's not the perfect wine to drink before dinner or before lunch like now. It's a wine that we can sit on the table with the family and share this bottle with an important meal like aged cheeses. Is perfect, for example, with risotto al gorgonzola. It's amazing with a wine like this, or pulled pork, spare ribs, important plats on Sunday, the lunch of the Sunday with all the family, with the important plat of this occasion. I think that could be the perfect occasion to open a bottle like this. Thank you very much. We are going to test the last wine, and we have a particular wine in the glass because we are in Friuli, Colli Orientali del Friuli. As I told you, when you hear the word Colli, you have to think about hills, because there is the literally translation of this word. We are on the east of the city of Udine, on these rolling hills. Colli Orientali del Friuli, someone says that to make a bad wine in this area, you have to try hard, because all the conditions are perfect to produce wine. The Alps protect this area from the cold wind from the north, and the sea breeze come inside to refresh the vineyards. And here there is a special soil called ponca, that is a kind of mix from calcareous clay and calcified sands. It's really particular, and it gives to wines of this area a special minerality in the glass. And today we are going to test the Picolit wine from Falcon Winery that always cultivate this kind of special and complicated grape. Just 8 hectares of vineyards, a garden. We can talk about a garden more than a vineyard. And in 1998 the family started the renovation of all the winery and the vineyards to increase a little the production. But when we talk about Picolit grape, we always talk about small production, because the problem of this grape is what made this grape so special. Because the Picolit suffer of the floral abortion. What it means that not all the flowers became berries, but the vines doesn't know it. So the vines take the nutriments from the earth to feed all the berries, but there are just few berries on the bunch. really fat berries, of course. With this grape, you can obtain just small quantity of wines. It's perfect to be used for sweet wines, and it's special sweet wines. During the Renaissance, these wines was known all over the most important courts of Europe. Was the wine of the kings, was the wine of the courts, and today we have just a bunch of producers using this grape, and just few bottles every year. This is the Falcon Picolit manual harvest, so bunch by bunch, drying in boxes for 40-45 days, so it's a dried grape, and it's a wine that can live for 7-10 years about. And in the glass you can find this special color, this amber color, we can say, and give attention to the luminosity of this wine. It's bright and lively. Put your nose inside the glass. This is the Picolit nose. Everything is dry inside this nose. Dry apricot, dry peaches, this idea of dry ginger, dry herbs, dried mushrooms, why not? It's a complex nose, deep nose that made us think to the sweetness. We can expect the sweetness of this wine. Have a sip. And this is the special way of the Picolit grape to work. We have a lot of sugar. You can perfectly feel the sugar in your mouth, but it's not heavy because we have a lot of acidity in this glass. So the balance is kind of perfect. This is not just a sweet wine. It's a kind of sweet, not sweet wine. And in the pairing too, more than with a dessert, I can imagine it with, for example, some blue cheeses could be perfect, or with foie gras could be a great idea, or just alone with nothing, like a meditation wine, as we call this kind of wine. Put your attention on the end of the long end of this wine. The sweetness stay in your mouth, but it's not heavy. It's not the only thing that you can perceive about this wine, but the acidity is always alive, and there is this salty part in the end that make it funny to drink, make it really pleasure to drink a wine like this, a sweet wine like this. This is a special grape that gives, of course, special wines, and I think that it's a kind of wine that hug you, and is perfect to close our meeting. So I want to thank you to share this time with us. I want to thank you all the producers that come here today, and the people that are here in the room with me, and the people that is not in the room with us. We can say hello. If you have any questions, you are ciao. If you have any question, you are welcome, and have a good lunch and have a good day, of course. Thank you very much. Grazie.